Welcome to Tracking the Wolves. I'm Zach Flackus, Assistant Athletic Director at Northern State University, and I'm joined today by NSU head football coach Tom Dosch. Coach, how are we doing today?
Doing good. How are you doing, Zach?
Excellent, excellent. You know, the snow is just about gone. Spring is officially here. I don't know if we might just go right to fall and skip summer, but I know you guys have already started spring football practice. Last year you ended the season winning 6 out of our last 8 games. Did that carry over into the offseason?
Well, probably to some degree it does. You know, part of it is you want to you still have to have a separation from one year to the next, you know, and so we don't dwell a whole lot on what happened last year, good or bad, but you certainly would hope and expect that experience and success. We've got a lot of guys returning who were part of those wins and that run we went on, that does carry over to practicing better and ultimately playing better in the fall.
Well, and you're 3 years into your run at Northern now, and I'm assuming there's a lot more confidence in your players because now they understand both your offense and your defense. They've been around it. It's not really new to a lot of them except for, of course, your young guys. You know, how does that translate into leadership in some of your veterans?
Well, I think one of the things it does when you watch us practice, you can tell we've got a lot of guys who've been in our system for a while. Just I think when you watch the speed of practice, there's a lot of guys moving at a high tempo, a lot of pace, and part of that is you hope you have faster guys. That's one reason. But the other part is, you know, you've got guys who are more confident in what's going on, and they feel comfortable and confident in our scheme on offense, defense, and in special teams. So I think that's a big thing. Is just our pace of practice is better, and that equates to when guys are playing faster and they're not thinking. That's going to equate to a better performance, and that's what we've seen so far. And then you mix that in with young guys who maybe redshirted in the fall who haven't really played at all for us yet, and they're still learning and they're still practicing a little bit slower, but you can tell that their learning goes every day. Their learning curve is really huge yet, and they're getting better every day. So you got kind of two groups of guys that you see out there practice.
Well, and that kind of leads me into that next question. You know, I've gone to a couple of your practices, and I think there's like 80 guys out for spring ball. Now, not all of them are practicing. You've got some injuries and different things like that. But is this one of the more competitive spring balls you've had at Northern?
It's the best one we've had since I've been here, competition-wise, when you look all across the board. Now, there are some spots, as you mentioned, we're pretty banged up on the offensive line, and a couple other places where you're getting a little beat up like every other team in America. So, but overall, in terms of competition at a lot of spots and depth-wise, we're better, and you need that. And we're finding out we need it in the spring because we're a little beat up this spring. But it goes back a little bit to what you said earlier about leadership too, Zach, and I think that's carrying over a little bit, that we're finding good leaders. And when you get into a competitive environment, it really doesn't matter if you're a freshman or a senior. You can still become a leader by the way you perform and how you show up every day, and we're getting to see that out of our guys, probably on a more consistent basis. That's one of the things we talk about leadership-wise, is being consistent, being there every day, and we're getting more of that.
Well, and as you look at your veterans, of course, you lost some guys that have been with your program for, you know, the whole time you'd been here, in a Logan Fawnhorst and different players like that. Who do you see both on offense and defense that's really going to have to take the reins during spring ball and then probably carry that over into the fall?
Well, offensively, you know, Jared Jacobson has started the last year and a half at quarterback for us, and really, as a starter, you know, I think he's 9-5 as a starter, you know, in the last year and a half. So when you look at what, you know, he brings to the table as a winner, which is really ultimately what you're looking for out of your quarterback, is finding a way to win games. So it starts there because of the fact that Jared's got some experience, and also the fact that the quarterback position is, you know, you have to have a leader there. Now, he didn't win those games by himself, but really the guys around him. You know, the offensive line, we've got a lot of returning players there. You know, Rob Neeson was an all-conference player for us last year. He graduated. Everybody else returns. And as you know, last year we had a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. So we played a lot of guys, and we've got several guys that are out this spring. Jake Holguin, starting center, John Caspers, who started at tackle for us, and Justin Parsons, and Justin started at guard. They're all out with some shoulder injuries. We expect them to be 100% ready to go by this summer, but they aren't practicing at all. So we look to those guys for some leadership. Kyle Cabral played a lot for us last year. Hayden Gowan played a lot. So, like I said, the blessing in disguise that we had last year, being banged up on the O-line, is we've played a lot of guys. And then B.J. Wright's a guy that played, Logan Brackey. We've got a lot of guys with returning experience. So anytime you can be experienced and veteran on the O-line, it's going to help you out as an offensive team, because run or pass, those guys got to do their job. And then, you know, we've got some running backs, John Hughes, Cameron Pudwell, both played quite a bit as the year progressed, Cam played more and more. We found kind of a role for him, fullback, tailback, kind of our short yardage guy. And Terrell Walker, who's been out this spring with an injury, is also a returning guy. And then our tight end position, we feel real good about, Zach, with Ben Jastrom, with Spencer Flackus, Dallas Lopez all returning. And then we've got a couple young tight ends, Connor Doherty and Cody Kraft, that we see a lot of good things out of every day. And then you look to our receiving core, Jordan Piatt's really a leader in that group. And if you watched us play last year, Jordan just made a ton of plays. He really has the last 2 years for us. Again, he's banged up a little bit injury-wise, so he hasn't been practicing much lately. But we've got some other guys that are stepping up, Will Carlson, Jordan Freeman, Chris Malsum.
Boy, on offense, it seems like you're really returning a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Even though you graduated, like you said, an all-conference player in Rob Neeson, just on offense alone, it sounds like you've got your core team back.
Yeah, wide receiver, Chris Morton and Mark Hanley were both first-team all-conference players here, and we lose both of those guys, but a lot of experience back at a lot of other spots.
How do we look on defense going through the same process?
Yeah, same thing. We lost probably a little bit more in terms of marquee or all-conference kind of players. Fonhorst and Thorstad and Marquise Mulkey. We lost some guys there. Ike Sirleaf was an all-conference player for us. He's returning, but he has been out with an injury and also with we call it the semester game. You have 10 semesters to use your eligibility, and Ike really double redshirted here, so he hasn't been practicing with us this spring. But, when you start up front with him, Jalen Bibbs, Apollo Ford, 3 guys that played quite a bit for us, Scott Taggart, Dakota Lutz, Blake Roberts, you see those guys up front. We got some returning guys there.
And that's an athletic defensive front for you, isn't it? Does that give you some options?
Well, it does, and really what we do, if you watch this play, we're a movement-based, we're a pressure team. We're moving our guys around a lot, We don't have a bunch of 270 and 80-pound guys running around out there. So, but then, Chad Stodero is a freshman for us from Garrett's in South Dakota, really has shown some good things as well. And so, we've got a good combination of returning guys there and some young guys that are really, in the mix, pushing for playing time. Tanner Lopez is showing a lot of good things for us, Dalton Wanger and Thad Johnson. So we've got a good mix of guys there that are pushing for playing time. And then linebacking core, Devin Olson, Mike Alberts, both played a lot for us. And inside backer, they're both returning. Mike Tuke and Ryan Waybrecht were both starters for us at outside linebacker. So we returned some guys there, and again, just continuing to build depth with some young players that are showing some good things at both those spots, really. Jordan Cole and Dakota Oderman, Trevor Heining, really a lot of those guys have shown some good things. So we're going to play a lot of guys on defense, especially in our front seven, because we are an undersized group and we like to rotate guys in. So continuing to build depth there. And then, secondary is probably overall maybe the most experienced group. Logan Dosch has started every game he's played here for us. Returns, he's a first-team all-conference player at safety. Jason Gaditz has played a lot the last 3 years. Paul Woodward started 22 games for us at corner. Yeah. And, so we're getting some experience back there. Blaine Schmidt, Matt Anderson, and then mixing them in with Dylan Kreisfeld and then some younger players as well, Matt Thorson and Joe Parsley, Channing Barber. We're seeing some good things out of those guys too. So we've got what we feel is a pretty good mix of old and young. Zach Neer played quite a bit for us. He's out with a knee injury this spring. We expect him back for the fall. So and that's really what you're shooting for, really, is to have some older veteran guys, but also some young guys pushing them to really build that depth and competition.
Well, and I just remember it's such a huge difference from your first year here when I think you had 40 guys maybe out for spring ball, and now to have 80 guys in the team, you're fighting for competition. Is that really what makes your team better, especially in the off season?
Yeah, I think it does. Just you guys see that, when they're out when you're out at practice or you're waiting your turn to get in, and during practice sessions, that there's 2 or 3 other guys at your spot, and as opposed to just 2 or 3 guys total, at your spot. So, which is what we had at my first year. So that's part of it. And then also, football is such a numbers game. It's such a game. It's an attrition game. It's a matter of staying. Who can you get back health-wise, and who can you keep healthy? And so that's really what that depth and that competition will do to your football team is over the long haul of a game, and especially the long haul of the season. Are you going to have enough guys? Because really, that's usually the teams that are the most successful at the end are the guys that have the best players still around. Because it is a little bit of it's a game of attrition and survival of the fittest, really.
Well, and it seems the exact same way in your coaching staff. You've had such continuity in your coaching staff. So many of them either played for you, been in similar programs, or at the same schools as you, and yet you're keeping a lot of these guys. Of course, you always want your assistant coaches to go on to bigger and better things, but, boy, you've just kept a really good coaching staff. Seems like it's going further this year. Looks like you get to move around some guys, maybe to coach some different positions, but they've got familiarity with Northern. Well, tell us about your coaching
Yeah,
staff.
well, Mark Martin is our offense coordinator, assistant head coach. He came in with me 3 years ago when I took the job, and so we've had the same offensive scheme ever since we got here. Obviously, we were going to add wrinkles and new things and twists and everything else, but schematically, we're going to be the same. And then Maya Tupou, who's been here longer than any of us. Maya's been here for 10 years.
He's been here longer than I have.
Yeah, he's been here longer. He's just been outstanding for us. And we moved Maya from our running backs coach to wide receivers this year to give him more responsibility because he's really progressing and growing real well as a football coach. And you can see that in our wide receiver play is a lot more physical than it's been before. Mike Schaefer's been here, and this is his third spring with us now, coaching our offensive line. Again, the continuity. So offensively, we've got some continuity there. Jason Hoskins, again, came in when I did in 2010, and has been coaching our secondary ever since then. And having the same coach with that group of guys is obviously a big thing. And then Matt McCleggan coaches our defensive line, and he's been really a huge addition, energy-wise and knowledge-wise. Just his knowledge of our scheme and just knowledge of our opponents and of the northern half and of the whole conference since he played at St. Cloud and coached there. Feel real comfortable and real confident in Matt, and then a couple of our graduate assistants, Jordan Brown coaching our tight ends, and also Shane Clancy coaching our outside linebackers, both played in our scheme. So they, there's some continuity there. Adam Kiefer's a student assistant, been here 3 years now. So yeah, we've had some turnover, which is good to have, but we've also had a good core of guys here for 3 years or close to it, and that certainly helps with your retention and with your scheme. And so players aren't learning new techniques and new schemes and stuff every year. Then it becomes just a fight that you can't ever win.
Absolutely. Coming up here in spring ball, what does the end of spring ball look for you? I know you guys are going to have a scrimmage to break it down at the end of the year, but what's the rest of your schedule for spring ball?
Well, we're about halfway through right now, or over halfway through. So we were planning on having our spring game Friday, April 12th at 6 o'clock at Swisher Field. Okay. And I don't know if there'll be any pre-game activities. I know last year they did a few things, but we'll be out there at 6 o'clock, and it'll be close to it won't be a complete full game because we don't have enough depth particularly on the offensive line to have two full teams. But we'll go offense versus defense, but we do really a live situation. We'll do just about everything live. We'll go live on some or all of our quarterbacks, so it will be as close to a live game as you're going to have. So that's a great way for us to evaluate our team. And then we also got a scrimmage this Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, the 6th of April as well. So we're about over halfway done with our practices. We've got a scrimmage at the end of this week, and then we have our spring game at the end of the following week, the 12th, which will really put a cap on our spring season.
Well, it's been enjoyable to watch, especially some of those young guys, because you see, a lot of them are practice dummies that first year in, they're redshirting, and now you can see that they've got that competitive fire, and they're trying to show the veterans that, I'm not the 180-pound freshman I was. Now I'm a 210-pound athlete that's coming at you, and it really makes for an enjoyable practice to watch just because you see the enthusiasm and the fight, and some of those young guys and some of the veterans still occasionally stomping them on the ground saying, what, I've been here for 3-4 years. I know how to work this drill. So,
yeah, that's right.
Coach, with that, I'm going to let you go, but appreciate the time.
Thank you, Zach.
This has been Zach Flackus and Tom Dosch with Tracking the Wolves.